Welcome back to another episode of Seriously, the Claudia Project. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. Taylor Swift is officially engaged to a man who plays football. And so I know it's the biggest news happening on the internet. And so there's no way that we're not going to talk about it here too, because this is a happening place. And so we need to be in the happenings. But I don't really want to talk about Taylor Swift being engaged so much as I want to talk about what that means for you and how it kind of goes back to all of the things we've been talking about. The pressure that we're putting on ourselves, timelines, and how to make sure that while all of this news is happening around you, that you're not getting wrapped up in social media thinking that you're supposed to be doing something you're not. Because let us all remember, T Swift, she's not 21. And so if you were looking across and getting past like the dust of being engaged and how amazing that is, even though I feel like I'm excited for her, but also like I can't imagine, like, you know what you feel like when someone you know gets engaged and you think like, wow, I can't believe that that person was dating so-and-so for so many years and now she's got to deal with this. Anyway, again, not what this episode is about, but now that I've got your attention, again, welcome back to Seriously, the Claudia Project, where we talk about everything between lifestyle, motherhood, and motivation. I hope you guys stay tuned. We do episodes Monday through Friday, and make sure you subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything. Let's get into it. So with things like engagements, promotions, babies, all of those things, all of it makes us, especially women, feel like we're supposed to do things at certain times. I remember when I was like 16, you couldn't have told me that by 21, I wouldn't be married, like having a baby, be a millionaire, like all these things that would be happening. I would own a house. I would be doing all of this stuff. And let me tell you, I got to 21 and I wasn't doing any of those things. And then I had a small midlife crisis at 25 because I was in a career that I wasn't really sure that I actually enjoyed, and I had gone to college for it, and I did all my internships with it, and I had traveled and done all of these things to get to a place in this career that I thought I really, really wanted, and realized how unhappy I really was. And just to think about like what I was doing at 25 versus what I'm doing at 35, nowhere in the plan. Couldn't have planned it out if I even wanted to. So while all this T Swift news is happening, I want you to brace yourself. Take a minute, pause, give yourself a second, and make sure that you're not comparing yourself to anyone around you, especially not, respectfully one of the biggest pop stars happening in our generation right now. It's really, really easy to let social media make you compare yourself to other people, but you have to remind yourself all of us are like living completely different lives, dealing with completely different circumstances. And so to compare something as, let's say, big as buying a house to someone else's circumstance, especially if you guys are not starting in the same place, like maybe they've saved every dollar since they were 15 and that's how they have a down payment for a house. Maybe their family left them money. Maybe they come from money. Maybe they are in the military and they're able to use like a very special loan and that's how they're able to make it work. You just never really know. And so comparing yourself is just like creating habits that we don't want to really get into. And so let's just talk about why they're fake, why you can't really do anything about them, and figure out how to move forward in a way that makes us all feel more comfortable, right? So number one, circumstances. We just talked about that one a little bit. You just don't know what other people have going on. And so to compare yourself to someone's highlight reel challenge in its own self, and you don't know the challenge that they're dealing with on like having something that you think you want so badly. Number two, life doesn't have to happen in order. Again, like if you're focused on getting married right now, then maybe it's taking away from your career, or vice versa. Maybe you were really focused on school and that's how you were able to prosper doing those things. Taking them out of order adjusts the way that your the way that your life is really supposed to go. And so you really need to think about like, where are you? Where do you want to be? And where's your actual focus in the moment? And I dare to say, if we're talking relationships, which that's like a whole nother episode in itself, right? A lot of times when I thought that I should be in a relationship, I was like so worried mentally about other things that there's no way I could have given myself to another person in the way that relationships really require. The type of compromise you have to have in order to be in a healthy relationship, there's no way I could have done in my mid-20s. And so really, a lot of times, relationships wise, you just need hobbies. In my early 20s, I wish that I had just like found stuff to do other than like dating, because I could have just been doing so many things alone instead of worrying myself with like being with another person. I wasn't ready to be with a person, they weren't ready to be with people. There's like a whole host of reasons why they just shouldn't be happening. So things happen in the order that they're supposed to, and so just in the time that you have, make sure that you're focusing in on exactly what you should be doing in the moment. So if you're going to go to school, give school 100%, and then all those other things will fall in line. And that's super important too. You are not late to the game. Let T Swift be a reminder. I think she's my age. I think she's 35. Was she born in 1991? I think so. I'd have to. Taylor Swift was born in 1989, which means she's like 36 right now, and she's getting engaged for the first time, which means she didn't get married in her early 20s either. And so use her as a testament on you not being behind, you being in the exact place that you're supposed to be at the right time. And nothing happens in life on accident, so it's going to happen when it's supposed to. So give yourself a little bit of time to keep adjusting, keep talking through exactly what it is that you really want. Are you focused on just you and like being your very best self? If you want to go back to school, now's the time. There's no better time like the present. You're not too old, you're not too young. If you want to start that project you've been putting off, there are no bounds to time. I've been talking about this a ton with a girlfriend of mine. Like, changing careers in your late 30s is also fine. There's so much time that you have to switch and change, and still years to do really great things in that path. So focus on that. Real growth happens in seasons, not in stages. And so I think a lot of times I have definitely been someone who thought like, oh, I only have to learn for a little bit and then I'll be done with that and I'll get to like focus on other things. And really it is just, you go through like peaks and valleys, right? So right now I'm super focused and motivated to be as consistent as physically possible. And I'm working on this being like a full season, like a season that I'm in that I stay in and don't like travel out of this season. But we'll see what kind of happens with that. And just know that right now, if you're going through really hard times, it's only a season of life. And so that's on the opposite side of it. So I'm on like a positive trajectory, but it's because for like a couple of years, it was like pretty a downward spiral of like quitting a job that was paying me really well to pivot completely career-wise and basically start over from scratch. And those times were really, really hard. And then going through some family deaths was also really, really challenging, and losing jobs was hard. And then pivoting out of that now it was a season that was really challenging, but I kept pushing and I kept showing up. And so now we're on the other side of that season. And so I'm highly motivated and want to focus on making sure that the next 3 to 5 years are like fruitful and come with like really great and exciting times. And I think that if we're looking at, again, T Swift's engagement, that's the same thing, right? You go through relationships that don't work and they're very public and they're nasty, and people talk a lot about you and all of the things that you've done, but you come out on the other side victorious, if you will, and excited for like a new path, and even a new season of life. When maybe you thought for a little bit that it wouldn't really work out for you like that. In all of this, when you're thinking about timelines, celebrate those small wins. Be excited. Tell people, the little things that you've accomplished. Post them on the internet if you want, or move around in silence. But celebrating those micro milestones and showing yourself that every single step of the way that you're making a better choice. If we're looking at relationships, maybe you get back on dating apps for the first time in a few years and you realize like, wow, in the past, I would date the same type of loser that I know I don't like. And now I'm being more specific. I'm going on dates. And like, as soon as I see the red flags that I've seen in the past, I cut them off and I move on. That's a milestone. And making sure that you're giving yourself credit for that kind of thing is really amazing and life-changing. And I think because it's not something that is being celebrated necessarily all the time, we forget that is a big step for some people, and you have to be excited when you do stuff like that. I think as you move into moving away from timelines and comparing yourselves to friends and even more strangers on the internet, building a consistent rhythm of like how you want to see yourself grow in like small little steps instead of creating timelines. So I know that's very hard. It's very hard for me. So like right now I've got this like lax timeline that I'm living on and like things I'd like to accomplish in the next 5 years. And instead of me like creating an image of what that looks like 5 years from now, what I'm trying to do to pivot away from what I've done in the past, which is, you know, put a lot of pressure on myself, I am trying my best to think about what would I like to be doing 5 years from now, and right now doing the steps that it takes to make that stuff come to fruition, right? And so if I'm showing up every day and I'm doing the best that I can, then I am taking the right steps so that 5 years from now I feel pleased about, you know, where I've kind of come. Now, if I'm not doing anything, the alternative of that is, right, like doing nothing, and then 5 years from now looking around and wondering why I'm still in the same place I was in 5 years ago. And that is, my friends, where the episode kind of pivots into holding yourself accountable for what your goals really are, not putting yourself on a timeline for them. But if you're saying you want to get married and have kids, but you're not dating, if I'm saying that I want to, you know, lose 10 pounds, but I'm eating Chinese food every day and not taking any steps other than walking from my car to the office building, it creates a scenario where I'm like, where we're talking to each other here, where we are kind of like, we're holding ourselves by the ankles, really, you know? It's like the literal definition of insanity. And so making sure we're not doing those things to ourselves, very important. And that's not T-Swift behavior. That's not what it is. It's not giving that. So thinking about how you're going to shift that life rhythm to make sure that you don't have a strict timeline, but you do have goals and things that you want to accomplish, and you're not comparing yourself to anybody else. You're only comparing yourself to yourself, and doing those things every single day that your very best self would be doing to like accomplish your goals. Consistency, healthy, daily joy. Like those are the things that we're focusing on these deadlines, and that's it. And what does that really mean to you? What are our takeaways, guys? Taylor Swift's engagement is amazing, and we're stoked for her, even though we feel a way about the ex and how she must be feeling. And really, I had not even thought about Taylor Swift's exes in all of this. I wonder, is it like the girl that got away? Do men feel that way? A conversation for another day. Either way, the key takeaway here is that Taylor's engaged, and that's amazing, but that has nothing to do with who you are as a person, and it doesn't create some weird timeline where you're like, well, if she can get married at 35, so can I. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to do other things. And so let's get off of this wheel where we're comparing ourselves and creating timelines and creating really an anxiety around how things should make us feel. As always, make sure you leave a comment down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys around like how we feel about timelines, how you're comparing yourself to others, how you're making sure you're not doing that. I try to just go into people's social medias with like an abundant amount of joy and like excitement for what everyone else has going on and not compare them to myself. But that's taken a lot of practice, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, as always, this is Seriously Claudia. I'm so glad that you were here today. We are going to keep on showing up. We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode. Leave comments below on what you guys would like me to talk about next. Talk soon. Bye.